So when I saw the theme of the event, Passion to Purpose, I thought it would be a pretty good platform for me to finally share my story. So flashback to 2014, I was doing my first finance job. It was a typical finance job in New York. Life was pretty good, except that almost every entertainment-oriented website was blocked. Like anything you can think of, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything was blocked at work. And I had no option but to spend my free time on websites like Google, Quora, Wikipedia. And I used to Google really random things, like what percentage of penguins are gay? If we call 2-1 as 21, 3-1 as 31, 4-1 as 41, why don't we call 1-1 as 1T1? Was SRK on an escalator when he sang the song "Main Thera Raha, Zami Chalne Lagi"? So I used to Google all these really random things, and after all this Googling, thinking about random things, I really thought that we really stopped thinking for ourselves anymore. We just end up doing what is socially acceptable. Even the smartest people in the world, the people who go to Harvard, Wharton, IITs, they end up doing often what is socially acceptable. And these are the people who are supposed to be data-driven. And while they use data in their careers, they don't use often data in their lives. So for smaller decisions, we are very opinionated. We do our full research. So if we want to decide where we want to have dinner or in a restaurant, we may read Zomato reviews, Yelp reviews, TripAdvisor reviews. When deciding which phone to buy, we may look into camera quality, price. We may talk to our friends. But for bigger decisions in our life, we often take things in face value and we don't really give much thought to it, and we do what our parents taught us to do. A person born in a Muslim family usually ends up becoming a Muslim. A person born in a Christian family usually ends up becoming a Christian. A person born in a Hindu family usually ends up becoming a Hindu. We don't look into ratings or reviews when it comes to religion. A person similarly born in a family that eats meat usually ends up eating meat and starts justifying to do so. A person born in a vegetarian family usually becomes a vegetarian and starts justifying that. Even if you ask a non-vegetarian from IIT who calls himself an animal lover, why do you love dogs but eat goats, sheep, chickens? They probably will not be able to give you a rational reply. You ask a vegetarian from IIT who cares about animal welfare, why do you wear leather shoes? They probably will not be able to give you a rational reply. But you ask someone, do you prefer sitting in an aisle seat or a window seat? They'll give you a detailed reply about that. They have a detailed opinion about that. And this is something which bothers me. And I feel like we pay a lot of attention to these smaller decisions, but not all decisions are small. Like, they lead to big outcomes. 6 billion people in the world want to eat meat 2 to 3 times a day, which means 3 billion animals are getting killed every single day. The population of India and China combined, every single day, that many animals are getting killed. These are not small decisions. Because we make so many other choices on the basis of these choices. So a Hindu often ends up marrying a Hindu. A person who is a Christian often ends up marrying a Christian. These are not small decisions. And if the IIT students, the future of the world, the people, literally the future of the world, if they don't have any strong rationale behind making these major decisions, the world is bound to fail. I always thought that education means thinking for yourself. And if you are people from IIT, the smartest people in the world, if they don't think for themselves, the world is bound to fail. We say that our actions are based on logic. We say that our actions are based on morals. But actually, our actions are just based on 2 things: convenience and social acceptability. We don't care about logic. We don't care about ethics. And this is what bothered me, and this is what led me to write. This is what led me to, want to help people uncondition themselves from biases, help people really think for themselves. And this is when I decided, okay, I want to write a book. So I decided, okay, on my weekdays, I'm going to write 500 words. On weekends, I'm going to write 1,000 words during my commute to work. And the only problem was that I had absolutely no writing background. So I had to come up with innovative ways to motivate myself. So I decided to change my password to I am an author. Like my Gmail password, I changed it to I am an author, even though I was not an author back then. And every time I type my password, I am an author, it motivated me to complete my book. And this especially helped me during a time when I had accidentally deleted 4 chapters of my book. And just the action of typing my password, I am an author, reminded me of why I started writing the book in the first place. I had first set my password as I hope to be an author, but Gmail said that my password is too weak. I have changed my password since then, so please don't try and hack my account. Anyway, with all of these motivations, setting targets of 500 words on the weekdays, 1,000 words on the weekend, changing my password, I was finally able to complete writing my book of 250 pages. But now what the harder part was, how do I publish this book? So I first sent 3 chapters of my book to several publishers in New York, about 20 publishers, and all of them either rejected me or ignored me. And then I decided to Google how to publish a book. And all the links that came up were self-publishing links in which my book would be available on Amazon, but not in the bookstores. So like any other debut author's dream, my dream was for my book to be available in bookstores, not only on Amazon. So I decided to make a trip to the bookstores and see what are these debut authors, who've been able to be successful enough to get their books in the bookstores. What have they done right? So I went to bookstores in New York, Barnes & Noble's, Strand, that's where I was back then. And I picked out more than 100 books which were similar to mine, like by debut authors in the self-help book category. And I didn't read the books, I just was turning the page and I read the acknowledgements. I went to the acknowledgements page and I read more than 100 acknowledgements pages over a course of 10 days because I realized that almost every debut author thanks his agents and editors in the acknowledgements pages. And after reading more than 100 acknowledgements pages, I realized the same 5 to 7 agents and editors' names kept coming up again and again in these books. So I realized these are the agents and editors who usually work well with debut authors in the self-help book category. And I sent them a personalized email saying that I really appreciated their past work. Even though I had not read their work, I just read the acknowledgements pages. And finally, I was able to get some traction from publishers like Bloomsbury, HarperCollins, Penguin. The only problem was that they told me, Revant, your content is great, but to be honest, no one in the US, UK, the Western audience, they don't want to read a self-help book written by an Indian unless it's about yoga or spirituality. And I was really frustrated. I've spent months writing this book, and now they're rejecting my book because my book is not about yoga or spirituality. That doesn't make sense, man. But when I reflected on it, I realized that they do have a point. All the successful books in doing well abroad are usually, by Indian authors, are usually about like the monk who sold his Ferrari, Chanakya's opinion on management, like all like books which is somehow or the other revolve around these kind of topics. But my book was not about that. So I decided to Indianize my entire book and make it relevant for a more South Asian Indian audience. And we Indians, we love to Desify everything. For every Uber, there's an Ola. For Amazon, there's Flipkart. If you go to Haldiram, there's a pizza with bhujia on it. And I'm pretty sure if a Punjabi wrote Da Vinci Code, he would name it Vinci da Code. So even I Indianized my entire book. I made I made Donald Trump into Narendra Modi. I changed around the Hollywood references into the Bollywood references. But I let Priyanka Chopra remain Priyanka Chopra. So I Indianized my entire book, and then I was finally able to get Bloomsbury to publish my book, and I was really, really excited. I left my job in New York. I came to India because I wanted to promote my book. Meanwhile, I had even gotten into IIM Bangalore, but I told my parents and friends that no, I don't want to go. I want to instead focus on my book. And my friends and family, they told me they could never not imagine how anyone could be smart enough to get into IIM Bangalore, but stupid enough not to go. And I was telling them, my mom was very worried, and I was telling my mom, all the big successful people that we hear of, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, they're all dropouts. And I'm going one step further. I'm not even dropping out. I'm not even going in the first place. Imagine how successful I'm going to be. And my dad was the only person who was supportive in the entire journey. And he told me, if you go to IIM, you're going to start writing books like the other IIM authors. And we all know the kind of books the other IIM authors write. So finally, I decided, okay, I'm not going to go to IIM, and I'm instead going to focus on marketing my book. And this was really amazing. My publishers, Bloomsbury, they really supported me. They helped me speak in schools, colleges, TEDx events. They literally paid every single bookstore in India and in South Asia so that my book would be in the front of the bookshelves when it would release. And we had very carefully planned my book release so that it would be in November 2016 during the winter months when, the students are freer and they would be able to read it. So I was super, super excited. My first ever book was releasing. It was going to be in the front of the bookshelves. Super excited. So when my book released on November 8th, 2016, I was excited. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Narendra Modi announced demonetization. You guys are laughing, but it was a very, very, very confusing moment for me. Like, I did not know what to do. I did not know what is happening. And during those few months, people were struggling to even buy medicine. Like, the last thing they were going to think about was buying a book. So in the first month when my book released, my book was like this in the bookshelves. Right in the front of the bookshelves, it was like this. In the second month, my book was like this. You could just see this part of my book in the bookshelves. Like, it was placed like this. In the third month, my book was somewhere in the corner of the bookshelves. And in the fourth month, it was not even available in most of the Indian bookshelves. So it did really well in Pakistan, Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. It even got featured in the World Book Fair. But in the main Indian market, which is the core market, it got completely wiped off. And I did not know what to do. I even changed my passport as I'm a best-selling author, but it did not help. So through this entire experience and this entire journey, I realized and I learned that just the way you can regret giving up on your dreams, sometimes you can even regret chasing your dreams and not taking a more realistic path. Right now, at this juncture of my life, I have two main choices. One is to republish my book, Selfienomics. The second choice is to write a few new pages, maybe write a new book, maybe this time about yoga and spirituality, and try to write a new book. And I want to end my talk today with a quote, with a modified quote by Muhammad Ali, which is, "The man who views the world at 50, the same as he did at 20, has wasted 30 years of his life. Don't waste the next 30 years of your life. Start thinking for yourselves." Thank you.